What's up, guys? I got the funny Fortnite controller. If you haven't seen, this is the cracked NeoS Fortnite Festival controller. It's a controller design cracked had laying around, and for some reason they decided to slap 5 fret buttons on it. Now that means in theory that this could be the perfect Fortnite controller. It could let you play every game mode, including Pro mode in Fortnite Festival. At least, that's the idea. In reality, I don't think this controller is perfect at anything it sets out to do. But I think I'm okay with that. I've been using this controller since it came out. I pre-ordered it like day 2 or 3, and in that time, I have clocked in about 40 hours of Clone Hero, 10 in Festival, a 25-hour playthrough in Indivisible, and at least an hour in a couple other titles just to fully test out some of the other buttons. I think that I can confidently say I have put this thing through its paces. But why do I think that this controller isn't perfect? One, it just isn't super comfortable. It's definitely not as comfortable as pretty much any first-party controller on the market right now that you probably already have. This also gets worse the more buttons you have to press in a game. When I played Indivisible, I didn't have too much of a problem, right? Because it's a 2D platformer. You're basically only using the D-pad and the buttons. But once I started playing something that was 3D, that required a lot more movement between, buttons and sticks, I just never found it comfortable. I've used a good handful of flat controllers now, and this is just kind of the consequence of removing handles from a controller. There's just less to grip onto. And by that logic, this controller just isn't that great for Fortnite. Personally, I don't think any controller is. Keyboard and mouse gang, rise up. But, compared to like a modern first-party controller, I just wouldn't pick this. Reason 2, it's not great for Fortnite Festival. The way that songs are charted in Fortnite Festival is that you will never have to hit a double note between the first 2 rows and the last 3 rows. Hey, I realize what I just said didn't make a lot of sense. Let me be a little bit more clear. There will never be a red-green double or a yellow-orange-blue double or triple. Just figured I should clear that up. Alright, back to the video. The reason that it's like this is because they expect you to play on a normal controller with 2 fingers, right? The default mode for Fortnite Festival is thumb mode, which is just the D-pad and the 3 face buttons. Hitting doubles on the left and right side of the controller would be incredibly hard in some instances and impossible in others, which is why they charted the songs the way that they did. This also means that there is no reason to use these buttons. In fact, it actually makes some songs harder because you're using 1 hand instead of 2. Reason number 3 is that it's not great for Festival Pro mode, and by extension, Clone Hero, Rock Band, Guitar Hero, Yarg, Since these games require you to hit buttons and strum at the same time, Cracked had the idea to let you remap strumming to a button. And while this works for slower songs on lower difficulties where you don't have a bunch of strums back and forth, once you get into expert mode, you're probably going to find that there's a lot of sections and songs that really suck to play on this thing. Because they weren't designed to be played like this. They were designed to be played on one of these, a guitar controller. I got around this a little by mapping strum to joystick. It helps a little bit, but since you're using your strum hand to also help stabilize the controller, you really can't go wild in strum, regardless of what you map it to. Also, Festival does not let you map strum to joystick. You can only map it to buttons, so you're just kind of SOL on that one. And because of those 3 points, I just think that this controller doesn't really nail anything of what it's trying to do. It's not nearly as comfortable as playing a regular controller, it's not great for playing Festival regularly, and it's at best okay for playing Pro mode. Now that I've just spent the past few minutes dogging on this thing, I'm going to tell you why I actually love this controller. It's a fully kitted out controller, it's got back buttons, Hall effect sticks, analog triggers, rumble, decent battery life, and oh yeah, fucking Guitar Hero buttons. This controller really is a jack of all trades. I mean, it is not great at anything specifically, but it's okay enough at pretty much everything. While it's not super comfortable, it's good enough. Right, I mean, I played through an entire video game on it. It couldn't have been that bad. And the trade-off of not having handles is that it's more portable, so you can slide it in a bag and take it with you to school, so you could play games under the desk like a rebel. Don't do that. Don't play games at school. So it's perfect to slide in a bag for going on a trip or going to a friend's house or something. I've always used 8BitDo's SN30 Pro as my travel controller, but since this one's got back buttons and fret buttons, I'm thinking this is my new travel controller. While it's not great for Fortnite Festival for most people, some people would probably prefer to play the game with different fingers rather than their thumbs. It's great for anybody who maybe can't play the game as it was intended, or people who just don't want to play the game as intended. These are rhythm game players, okay? They like doing weird shit. And you know what? For accessibility's sake, I think having more options is always better, so good on them. And while it's not a replacement for a guitar controller, I mean, it's not a bad complementary piece. It's got a learning curve, you know, you have to figure out a way to hold it, but once you do, it's still fun to play on. I wouldn't try to FC or set high scores on this thing, but like, if you just want to jam out for a while, it'll satisfy the itch. I actually bought this thing specifically to play Clone Hero at night. I usually stay up pretty late, and if I tried to play on a normal controller in the middle of the night, I would wake up the entire house. The plastic clacking of those things can be incredibly loud depending on the model that you have, but this thing is just quiet enough to let me jam out in the middle of the night and not wake anybody up. I do have a few other oddball things to mention with the controller. The strap that this thing comes with is utterly useless. I guess it'll work well if you're only playing in like 4-note mode, but once you have to start moving your finger to that 5th note with a strap on, it's just not gonna work. I just lean it against my chest when I play. It's not perfect, but like, I don't think there is a perfect way to hold this thing, so you're just gonna have to figure it out. I also had the issue every now and then where the controller would just stop sending inputs for like 1 second, and then it would work perfectly again. This could entirely be my PC or like my Bluetooth dongle. It may not be the controller's fault at all, but it happened both while using regular buttons and while using these buttons. So I know it's not like the attachment's problem or anything. It was pretty infrequent though, maybe like once an hour or so. So it was just enough to make me think I'm going crazy. I might be going crazy. There might not actually be an issue there. An issue that I do know of is that, strangely enough, sometimes when using this controller with Clone Hero, I'll start to drop frames. At first I thought it was because it was low battery, because at the times that it was happening, the controller was low on battery, so I plugged it in, came back, and the problem went away. However, it has happened a few times now where the controller was fully charged and it still happened. It doesn't seem to be a polling rate issue or any video settings, and it's not happening when I use a guitar controller. Disconnecting and reconnecting seems to fix it, but it's just very strange. I don't know. If I figure it out, I'll pin it as the top comment and let you guys know. The last thing is probably the worst. The Cracked app. I don't want to dog on the app too bad. I think it's actually a really well-made app, and the fact that it gives you links to officially made YouTube tutorials, that's perfect, alright? No, the issue that I have is kinda small, but I think it could become a very big problem later. To use the Cracked controller inside of the Cracked app, you have to claim it. This reveals the product number, gives you a rank or whatever, and then plays a little fun video. I don't really care for the weird artificial rarity system, but it's not hurting anything, so I'm not really that worried about it. The problem is that once you have claimed the controller, no one else can use that controller in the Cracked app. So we now have this problem where any Cracked controller you buy secondhand may or may not be able to reprogram buttons or update its firmware. The only way around this currently that I have found, and I've dug around for a while, so if there's another solution, I have not found it. The only way around this is for the original owner to go into their app and unclaim the controller. And that's good in theory, if the person remembers to do so. I know plenty of people in real life that would completely forget about all that, sell the controller, and then several months down the line clear through their phone and just delete the app and not even think about it. So if you're watching Cracked, my solution would be pretty simple. Whenever you scan a controller that's someone else's and it gives you that pop-up that's like, this isn't your controller, just add a button that's like, I know, but I need to get in there anyways. That way, regardless of if you're buying secondhand, or maybe you just want to, I don't know, lend a controller to a friend for a little while so they can try it out before they buy it, none of the functionality will be limited. Again, right now I don't foresee it being that big of a problem, but like years down the road, when there's a bunch of these controllers and a bunch of guitar controllers in the secondhand store, it might be. I would rather just solve the problem now than worry about it later. Now, with all of that said, do I recommend this controller? Maybe. I think if you're the kind of person who wants one of these controllers, you probably already know that you want this controller. This is a very special kind of controller for a very niche group of gamers. As long as you don't buy it thinking that it's going to be the best controller ever, or the perfect Fortnite festival controller, or an adequate replacement for a guitar controller, then yeah, I think I could recommend buying this. I've had a great time with it, and I'm glad that I bought it. However, if you want a great feeling controller, or you want a guitar controller, just buy them separately. Trust me, you're gonna have a much better time. And if you are wanting a guitar controller, you're in luck, because Cracked has just announced that they're making a guitar controller, and you can pre-order it right now. They've got 2 models, multiple fretboard styles, more buttons than ever, a legacy mode for old consoles, a wired mode. I don't have this thing in my hands, so I can't tell you for sure, but it's shaping up to be probably the best guitar controller that we've ever gotten. I might get one at some point and do a video on it, but like, I'm finding it hard to justify the purchase. I mean, I already have multiple guitar controllers that work perfectly fine. But you never know, I like making poor financial decisions. Maybe I'll crack and buy one. There's also the PDP Riffmaster that came out last year. I've heard they're alright. Not the best quality ever, but not a bad way to jump into the genre. It should be perfectly okay for the grand majority of people. However, now compared to the price of the Cracked guitar, I think it's kind of expensive, so maybe try to catch it on a sale. But that's it. This is the Cracked Neo-S Fortnite Festival controller. It really is a thing that exists. The community's been calling it a doohickey, and yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate name. This is a doohickey. I'll link the official website in the description for this thing if you want to check it out, and heck, why not? I'll link the guitars in the description too, just in case you want to see those. And I'll see you later.